Say where is my shame when I call your name. So please don't set me free. I'm as heavy as can be. I will do you harm. I will break my arm.
Once upon a time, there was a little wolf who loved to play games. He would spend his time watching gameplay and reviews online. Then one day the little wolf had an idea. Maybe I can make a video review. And so the little wolf toiled in his room until finally his video was complete. But when he tried to show his friends, they just laughed. So he killed them and stuffed them and mounted them in front of the TV. Now I'll always have an audience. Happy Halloween, everybody! To celebrate one of my favorite holidays, I'd like to go back to a game I reviewed 7 months ago, Rule of Rose for the PlayStation 2. When I first reviewed the game, I'd only played through the first hour and a half, and I thought I had covered everything that needed to be said in order to give a good idea of what this game is about. It's eerie, creepy, with a very good atmosphere. Well, having finally beaten the game, I found myself needing to revisit this strange survival horror and share my final thoughts. Like I had said in my previous video, the game is your basic survival horror, except for the fact that the enemies are children, and your character is probably the weakest, most spineless main character in gaming history. Yes, even worse than Lester the Unlikely. The children, who I commented on being creepy, are worse than I had originally thought. While the torture in the beginning of the game and promises of murder may seem bad enough, later you'll discover a whole new world of effed up. I mean, these kids are downright sick. Seriously messed up in the head, all of them.
It's into the onion bag for her.
The worst being Amanda, who is your main rival throughout the game.
Lower classes like you and me can't go up close. We have to pray from a distance.
There's just something very, very wrong with her.
We're still friends, aren't we? I know we're still friends, Jennifer. Just...
Now, like I said, Jennifer is pretty weak, but that doesn't mean the game is terrible by any means. In fact, I think it makes the game a little more realistic considering that she's just a helpless girl stuck in a sadistic reality. Luckily, she has Brown. Now, originally I mentioned that Brown was used to find things, and at first I thought it was just healing items or weapons that he'd discover. But it turns out that he is the most important character in the game. A lot of key items in the game cannot be discovered without Brown's help. Now you see, at first I thought Brown was pretty useless in combat. It wasn't until the end of the game that I noticed that Brown actually assists you. If he is healthy enough, he'll growl, bark, and snap at the enemies, causing them to cower, which gives you plenty of time to chop them into little bits. This becomes almost essential later on, when the rooms are literally flooded with enemies. And speaking of enemies, the ones I showed you in the last video were just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, they get really twisted later on. You see, there comes a point in the game where you must choose 3 different stories to read: The Goat Sisters, The Bird of Happiness, and The Mermaid Princess. Each one of these stories has its own version of the imps that you will face. In the Bird chapter, for example, you will fight roosters, which are very hard to kill. In the Goat Sisters, you'll be fighting imps who are wearing severed goats' heads and using scythes and scissors as weapons. But it's the bosses that are just going to blow your mind. I mean, look at them!
Why, you little rat, Jennifer! Did you make a mess again? This is unforgivable, you dirty, dirty girl!
Now, when I first did research for this game, I discovered that it has been banned in several countries due to its sexual themes. At first I thought the censors were being a little too critical, but as the game moves on...
Who did this? Who made this mess? Was it you? Go on, tell me. Answer me, Diana! No new mummy or daddy would ever want you if you don't like that. No, I won't be angry. Just answer me. It was you, wasn't it? You were in charge after all.
Yeah. Wow. So, now that I've beaten the game, what is my final thought? Well, the storyline's probably the most confusing I've ever seen in a game. To understand the plot, you have to pay attention to every single bit of detail, from the scribbles on the walls to the scraps of paper the kids leave behind. The game is also fairly easy. The enemies are meant to be avoided, not confronted. It isn't until the last level of the game which you actually have to go crazy on them, but luckily you'll finally have a decent weapon. I think I only died twice during the 7 hours I spent playing this game. However, the replayability is very high. There are literally dozens of collectibles and hidden items, different weapons you can forge, hidden costumes you can unlock, and you're even able to collect all the cutscenes in the soundtrack. Unfortunately, I didn't realize all this until the end of the game, so I guess I just have to start all over. Not that I'm complaining. But just because the game is easy doesn't make it any less fun. The sick and twisted storyline sucks you in, and you cannot help but keep playing to unravel the horrible events that explain why things are the way they are. And let me tell you, once you understand everything, the game just ends up feeling wrong. So very wrong. It's a game about love and hatred, sexuality and sickness, sadism and undying devotion. Again, I'd like to state to everyone out there, if you get a chance to play this game, do it! I hope you all enjoyed this little revisit to what is easily one of my favorite survival horror games ever made. See you next month on WTF.